everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to the next episode of Drug Development Diaries. Today, we are here with Dr. Naren Chirmule and Dr. Amitabh Gaur, uh, who happens to be our guest on today's episode of this podcast series. In this podcast series, we are talking about a recently published book called Approved: The Life Cycle of Drug Development. In this book, we are talking about different phases of drug development, different anecdotes, and different stories associated with that. So I request Naren sir to take over from here and introduce our today's guest for the episode.
Thank you, Vihan. Um, Welcome to the show, Amitabh. I feel, for the last 5 years that we've been talking to Amitabh and I have been talking on this Zoom call for how many years? Five
Right.
years or so, and we have these incredible conversations ranging from deep immunology to how Ramayana is relevant to our current world and all that. But today, what we're going to talk about is specifically about the chapter that Amitabh and his team has written for this book on vaccines. Amitabh has a wealth of knowledge in immunology. He and I actually have again a lot of commonalities. We 40 years ago we did our PhDs from professors who are both our professors are still alive and doing really well. Both plus 90s. I think Dr. Talwar is nearly 100. We both worked on vaccines at that time. He on reproductive vaccines, I on leprosy vaccines. Over the years, we both did immunology, deep immunology. Over the years, we both went into industry. Just like so, Amitabh spent a lot of years in Becton Dickinson, and then now maybe for the last 5 years, a little bit more than we've known each other for so long. We've been doing a lot of thinking about vaccines, and I'm so excited that Amitabh has been able to put together such a beautiful chapter on diverse aspects of vaccines. But I'll let Amitabh tell you about that story. Welcome to the podcast, Amitabh.
Thank you, Naren, and thank you, Vihang. Yeah, as Naren mentioned, we go a long ways back. Our backgrounds are very similar in terms of getting educated in science, learning the tricks of science, learning the trade, and the friendly rivalry which our respective mentors had, and those kinds of things are very important and they stimulate progress, and there have been a great achievements to the credit of those mentors. Actually, I would like to pay homage to my mentor, Dr. G.P. Talwar, who is now stepping into his 100th year, and he is the inspiration and he is the force behind whatever I could acquire and learn in life, and remains an inspiration. I mean, his life itself is amazing, and he's actually the architect of immunology in India. He put immunology in India. He planted the base for that, and towards that end, the National Institute of Immunology in Delhi is a living symbol of that.
Yeah.
Yes,
welcome to the podcast. Let's dive a little bit into the chapter itself. But before we dive into the chapter, maybe you can give us an overview of the importance of vaccines in modern medicine.
Right. I mean, in terms of public health, vaccines have an undeniable role in controlling and controlling the spread of disease. In fact, if anything, people don't recognize that the longevity which humans enjoy today are largely due to vaccines. Yes, of course, the other important part was antibiotic discovery, which allowed for infections to be controlled, which were major killers. But then the advent of vaccines, and whether it happened by Edward Jenner in the late 1760s or something like that, or there are references to that in the Chinese and ancient Indian literature as well. So, so the ability to control infections or infectious diseases at a mass scale, that was only made possible by vaccines.
Vaccines. Thank you. Yeah. I think
So
very.
in fact, Naren, I would say that I think we discussed that in the last 50 years or something like that, over 150 million lives have been saved just because of the use of vaccines
Wow,
and
wow.
human health. And out of those, over 100 million infant lives have been saved.
That's
So you can imagine if you save all those infants, Vihang, then your lifespan of human life on this planet increases dramatically.
dramatically. Yeah, so along
Absolutely,
those
yeah.
lines, can you tell us a little bit about the innovations, more recent innovations that have happened in the field of vaccines? Because we typically think about vaccines as infectious disease, but it's way beyond that.
Absolutely. And of course, infectious diseases, whether bacterial, viral, parasitic, so those are important areas in which vaccines have played a role and are continuing to play a role. But then there is this whole area of which has developed, which is immunotherapy, and within immunotherapy, cancer vaccines. So vaccines against tumor antigens, vaccines against some kinds of unspecified antigens of a tumor, which are normally not visible. Those could be very important. And of course, as we all know, that the immune surveillance is so important for controlling the growth and spread of tumor. And when the immune system of an individual fails at a point, then only the tumor escapes. And as we all age, this ability of the immune system to surveil and also then control aberrant growth gets diminished. And that's where vaccines will become very important. Similarly, there are very ultra kind of modern ways that how vaccines can help. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about one of those things is, as Dr. Talwar did, that is the reproductive, how to control human population at your will. And that would be based upon vaccines which can be broadly classified as birth control vaccines.
That's
Similarly, there are now vaccines which are being developed. Now, I can talk about them a little later, but then
yeah. No, I think
that'll be
this is
interesting.
I was going to ask you to talk to you a case study, but the reproductive vaccine that you worked on have been very exciting. So maybe I'll hand it over to Vihang for a few questions from him.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a very interesting discussion, sir. I would like to definitely learn more about these reproductive vaccines at a different time point. But let me bring you to the chapter that you have written in the book, Approved, the Life Cycle of Drug Development. So could you tell us how you have structured this chapter, how different sections are arranged, and how do they tell the story of vaccines?
Absolutely. So when Naren, you charged us with this responsibility, then first of all, I gathered a very kind of energetic young group of co-authors. My collaborators, I want to thank Priyal Bagwe and Sharon Vijayanan, young PhD students who were just completing their doctorate and embarking upon a career in science. And they joined me. And then what we decided was that we will have first a historical background. And the context is that, as we all know, only vaccinology or vaccines have been able to eradicate a disease from the face of Earth, and that is smallpox. And that was only made possible because of vaccine. There is no other technology which could have done that. Similarly, polio became the next candidate, which is almost gone, but there are issues left somewhere. Uh, so the first part of the book was about this historical perspective on this. That is how important this was, and the relevance is not lost on anyone. And then we went to then define the various infectious diseases by categories. So we said the bacterial diseases, the viral diseases, and the parasitic diseases. And then we thought that we should work on, so we gave a small description of each one of those efforts which are going on or have been successful in these areas. Then we said that look at the technology of how to develop a vaccine. So in terms of methodology of developing a vaccine, adjuvants, carrier proteins, similarly, methods of delivery of vaccines, the cold chain, and all those requirements which are important. So then we talked about that, the types of vaccines in terms of whether there is a whole organism vaccine, a subunit vaccine, a DNA vaccine, or of course these days the mRNA vaccine. And so those were the various types which we discussed. And then, but then I thought, as Naren asked initially, a very important aspect was how cancer is being tackled by the science of vaccines or the vaccinology. And so we have a very important section, a rather long one, on cancer vaccines, how they are being developed. I don't think there is a vaccine as per se, but there are. I mean, there are HPV vaccine, as we all know, the human papilloma virus for preventing cervical cancer. Similarly, hepatitis B surface antigen vaccine, which prevents cancers of the liver. But those are largely preventive. But there are now therapeutic vaccines as well for the cancer, and meaning that they are in the development. The prostate cancer vaccine is there, which in advanced cases of cancer where they are resistant to castration, that's where they are used. And then currently there have been trials for breast cancer vaccine. The phase 1 trials showed remarkable improvement in women who had gone through treatment, but then receiving this vaccine of the HER2/neu, they responded very well. So there's a lot of promise, and people are very hopeful.
I think the immunotherapy chapter itself could have been a separate chapter in of itself.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes,
and Naren and I wrote a whole immunotherapy chapter in another book from the same publisher just a year before this. And in that, we did tackle some aspect of vaccines as part of the broader immunotherapy strategy.
Wow, that's really interesting. So how was your overall experience of writing this chapter? You said that you brought together a team of young PhD students who were writing for you. How was your experience of combining all different minds and putting all the concepts together?
No, it was a very good mix of experience and energy and enthusiasm. So
Right.
so I thought it was great that both Priyal and Sharon were writing their pieces, the technology of the vaccines, the modern techniques which they have been using. So they were able to write about that, and that helped a lot. And they had recent experiences in that area, so that was really nice. And the writing always, I would say, is never an easy thing. You talk to any writer in the world, whether they write fiction, whether they write philosophy, whether they write science, it's always a challenge. and
Absolutely.
and most of the time you just avoid getting to the desk to write, right? But then,
Yeah, very much.
but then so many people have said that writing should be taken as a job. So meaning that as a routine, that's the only way to write. There is no inspiration or something like that. That's very rare, perhaps, because if you make it a routine that every day you sit at the desk and write 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, whatever you can, but do it regularly. It's like exercise. You can't do it for 10 days and then say, I'll skip it for the next 15 days. So that's, but again, while it's so much easier to expound on that, but the reality is to practice yourself is difficult. So, and Naren knows that. And so he has been after me, and I'm glad that he is always telling me that the deadline is approaching. The deadline is right there. You can start.
No worries. That's absolutely okay.
So a lot of credit to Naren and you, Vihan, because you guys drove that, and that kind of forced us to bring our minds together and then put it on the paper.
Sure, that's amazing. So overall, with your
one
journey
thing
so far,
thing I'd like to add to that, one of the concerns I had always was because the field is developing rapidly. Every day there is a new development.
Yes.
And therefore, what the teenagers call it FOMO these days, the fear of missing out. So I always felt that whatever we write will be always behind, because there'll be a new development which we won't be able to capture, and that would give us a feeling that, oh, that makes this irrelevant or makes this less relevant, let's say. And that thing always to renew it every day, while of course completing the part which we had already decided to work on, but then this urgency and or this desire to just catch whatever new is happening, to catch in the wider net and then include it in there. So that also made it challenging.
Yeah, very interesting.
Sure. So overall, what do you think is a good advice for young professionals or students who are willing to pursue their careers in vaccinology?
Oh no, it's a fascinating area. One of the things that is very interdisciplinary, as most things are these days. So of course you need to have a good background in biochemistry, immunology. You need to have good grounding in immunochemistry as well. You have to have, of course, the biology of the overall system. Of course, molecular biology these days, and with the advent of new tools of AI and machine learning, one has to be well versed in that, because some of these things where immune modeling can be done based upon, you can then determine using a, so identification of an epitope, for example,
Mm-hmm.
rather than doing it experimentally, you might be able to do it in a much better way, or let's say time saving way, by identifying those epitopes or those targets using artificial intelligence models, and then try them, validate them. So that'll be one important part. The technology or the innovations in assay, in terms of platforms of those assays, those are very important. So a very broad spectrum, I would say, of knowledge would be very helpful. The more diverse you are in terms of your ability to handle and be familiar with all this, would make it a far more successful endeavor.
Yeah, thank you very much for the very interesting conversation that we've had and some glimpse to what the book might be. So thank you very much for writing the chapter, leading the chapter. And thank you for this podcast, Vihang. So thank you also for hosting this. So over to you for the closing comments.
Yeah, and also I would add that this is my first ever podcast, so it'll be so. Thank you again, both Naren and Vihan, to bring me into this era, and also I wanted to say that at the end of the book we also had some teasers about vaccines for some very interesting topics, and those were like development of vaccines for control of cholesterol, development of vaccines for control of hypertension, development of vaccines which are in the works right now for Alzheimer's, development of vaccines for controlling aging, for example, this anti-senescence vaccines. Wow. So the field of vaccinology is expanding, and the approach could be then applied to so many more things.
Yes.
And with the advent of newer technology, which AI, which will take over all of us pretty soon, if we provided enough energy, it's a hungry beast, but for energy. So if we provide that, then it will do our bidding. So yes. we'll wait to see.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Amitabh sir and Naren sir, for this amazing conversation. And I'm really finding it exciting to learn about these latest developments in vaccinology, right? Anti-senescence vaccines and anti-cholesterol vaccines. It's going to explode into a very new dimension in the coming years. And it's very exciting to see all this. And I'm sure the viewers here of this episode are enjoying this episode. They're enjoying these heart-to-heart discussions with experts from different fields who have contributed to this chapter, to the book. I urge all of you to go and look for this book out. Tell the library of your institute to go and grab a copy of this particular book, and definitely read it. Ask us what questions you think you have, or tell us what your comments are. Give us feedback about what all things you would like to learn in the similar field, and what all different topics you would like to have on this podcast series after we keep discussing these chapters of the book. Until then, keep watching our podcast. I'll see you in the next episode with another guest. Until then, bye bye. Keep learning, keep motivated, keep yourself motivated, and stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next chapter.